We all want to make a difference, don't we? I mean, we support causes, we donate, we volunteer, but have you ever stopped and wondered if what you're supporting is actually working? How do you know? Well, that is the huge question we are tackling today. How do we measure the things that truly matter when we talk about social impact? So let's start with a little thought experiment. Imagine a charity puts out a press release. They've planted 1 million trees. Wow, right? On the surface, that sounds like a massive success. But is it? Is that really the whole story? And right here, this is the heart of the matter. Planting 1 million trees, that's an output. It's the immediate thing you can count. But the impact, that's the long-term change you were actually hoping for. Cleaner air, more wildlife. Mixing these two up is probably the single biggest mistake people make in this space. So, if planting trees isn't the end goal, how do you get from that first action to real, lasting change? Well, you need a map. And luckily, there's a really clear 5-step journey that can take us from the starting point all the way to real-world results. Let's walk through it together. Okay, everything has to start somewhere, and in this journey, it all begins with inputs. Think of these as the fuel for the engine. We're talking about all the resources you pour into a project right at the beginning. The money, the staff hours, the computers, the shovels, you get the idea. Next up, you have the activities. This is pretty straightforward. It's the doing part. What does the project actually do with all those resources? Well, it holds workshops, it provides services, it plants trees. These are the core actions that put all those inputs to work. And those activities lead us straight to our outputs. We're back to our 1 million trees. See, outputs are the direct, tangible, and this is key, countable results. How many people showed up to the workshop? How many meals did we serve? It's the what we did data. It's important, but it's not the end of the story. Because those outputs are supposed to lead to something way more important, outcomes. Now we're talking. These are the first real signs of change. It's the so what? Because you held that workshop, people actually have better skills now. Because you served those meals, people's nutrition has improved. This is where you start to see a real shift. And finally, we arrive at the destination, impact. This is the big kahuna, the ultimate long-term systemic change you are hoping for all along. We're not just talking about one person's new skills, we're talking about higher employment rates for the entire community. This is the change that really sticks. Okay, let's make this concrete. Imagine a literacy program. The inputs, that's the funding, the teachers, the books. The activity, conducting the actual classes. The output is just the number of students who signed up. But the outcome, the first real change, is that those students can now read better. And the long-term impact? Higher graduation rates across the board. See how that chain reaction works? Okay, so we've got the map, we know the 5 steps on the journey, but how do you actually know if you're moving from one step to the next? How do you track your progress? Well, for that, you need a measurement toolkit. And the most important tool in that whole kit is something called an indicator. Honestly, just think of an indicator as a signpost. It's that specific, measurable little sign that tells you whether you're heading in the right direction. It's how you know those reading skills are actually getting better. Now, these indicators come in 2 main flavors. You've got your quantitative ones, they're all about numbers. They answer how many or how much. But just as important are the qualitative indicators. These tell the story behind the numbers. They answer how well and why. You absolutely need both. One gives you the data, the other gives you the meaning. So, how do we collect all this information? Well, there are a ton of ways. You can use surveys to get a broad snapshot, or do in-depth interviews to get those powerful personal stories. A really common one is a simple before and after comparison to see what's changed. Some even get super advanced and try to put a dollar value on the social good they're creating. Now, it's not always simple. Proving your project alone caused the change can be tough, but these tools get us way, way closer to understanding what's really going on. All right, I know what you might be thinking. This sounds like a lot of work. Frameworks, indicators, surveys. Why go through all this trouble? Well, it turns out the payoff is absolutely huge for everyone. For starters, measuring your impact keeps you accountable. It shows you're not just busy, you're being effective. And when you know what's working and what's not, you can make your programs even better. And guess what? When you have hard evidence that you're making a difference, it makes getting funding and support so much easier. It all builds on itself, creating this amazing cycle of transparency and trust. You know, if there's one thing to take away from all of this, it's this quote right here. Measuring impact is not about proving you were busy. It's about proving you actually made a difference.
And that simple shift in thinking, well, it changes everything.
So, I'll leave you with a challenge. Now that you have this framework, the next time you're thinking about supporting a cause, what kinds of questions are you going to ask? Are you going to stop at the outputs, how many things they did? Or are you going to dig a little deeper and ask about the real lasting impact they're having?